I'm gonna call the meeting to order 10:03 a.m. Do a roll call. Oh, wait, I have to say these things. Hold on. This meeting is being recorded. If any other persons are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. That's all. So I'll do a roll call. Myself here, Christy. I don't know, not here right now. Larry Thomas. And if you want to also say your, for the public, like the wildflower allowance outreach, that if you identify yourself that too for everyone.
Yes, I'm an outreach advocate for the town of Greenfield.
Thank you. Reese McGovern.
Here. I don't know. I'm part of the committee.
You're an appointee of the council president.
Yes.
Green.
Hi, I'm an EMT at American Medical Response. Thanks for having me.
Pamela Goodwin.
Present. I'm appointed by the mayor to be on the ad hoc for the unhoused.
Officer Smith.
I'm with the Greenfield Police Department.
We couldn't tell.
A little overdressed.
Yeah. And then we have we have multiple guests but two official guests. And if you'd like to introduce yourselves as well, and feel free to come on up.
Yeah. I'm Pamela McBride and I'm with the Greenfield Public Library.
And I'm Amy Clark and I'm with the Interfaith Council Housing Assistance Committee.
Thanks for being. Well, actually, I think the approval of minutes from last time, none says on this agenda. Confusing. But anyway, and then next is public comment. And if Lexi, if you don't mind, did you have public comment or do you want to share?
Well, I'm not sure.
Oh,
No.
you can say that.
Lexi came in explicitly not wanting public comment, and about 5 people have been pressuring her.
It's not that I don't want to.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I just was invited to this meeting. I'm very interested. I'm here on behalf of Housing Greenfield, and so I'm not sure what my public.
Well, thank you for being here for Housing Greenfield. And if you want to chime in later, it doesn't have to be like just the start, so you can just raise your hand too.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you also, Councilor Perry, being here. Feel free to chime in if you have anything for public comment. Otherwise, we appreciate just that you're here. Okay, so our first topic is just guest speakers. So feel free to just,
Here I am.
yeah, feel free to share. Thank you so much.
I don't know that I have anything to say at this point. I was invited here and I'm glad to be part of this and basically to see how the Greenfield Public Library can help.
Thank you.
And I wanted to speak. Pamela had asked me and Larry and I worked together a lot through the Interfaith Council Housing Assistance Committee. Larry is the person on the ground who has outreach with lots of people, but I've been on the committee for probably 25 years. And for most of those years, what we did was provide funding so that people would not be evicted in the first place, or we provide funding when they're trying to get into housing for startup funding. But a few years back, MJ Adams here at the city asked if the Interfaith Council might take on some expenses for motel nights when other funding had run out. It was going to be a 2-month thing. We said, yes, we would do that for 2 months. So now it's been, 5 years, and now it's half of what we spend is on emergency shelter, housing, things that Larry needs, tents, tarps, sleeping bags, rope, boots, sneakers, and respite motel nights too. So we have been managing a lot of that with Larry. So concerns we were delighted last winter with these effort for the warming center. And I know it will be improved upon for this winter, which will be a great thing. But there are still a lot of people camping out. We're happy that there are places that people are being allowed to camp out, but I know Larry knows that they flood. And so I know this group is hoping to look at a place that doesn't flood, and that would be, I think, a terrific thing. A couple conversations are going on. You may be aware of the opioid task force working with Deb McLaughlin, having conversations with the sheriff's department about what can we do when sites are abandoned. My husband is on Green River Cemetery, and they had tried last year to allow some campers in the woods, and one of the campsites was abandoned. The Interfaith Council became involved because we were trying to protect the other tenancy. We thought if we could clean up the abandoned one, the cemetery might agree to let the other person stay. Well, it didn't work that way. And Larry got good friends to do the mammoth job last summer in the hottest time of trying to bag up what was left. We bought the bags, gloves, everything, brought everything. My husband and I loaded 50 bags, contractor bags, and brought them all to the dump. And that was maybe half of that site, Larry, was cleaned up that way. The other half still remained. So the cemetery ended up saying, we're not going to allow camping. So the other person left. The Green River cleanup people actually came and finished up that cleanup. A person camped there again over the winter this year. It's abandoned. They had to leave, and now it's there to do again. So it's an ongoing problem. I see that as a need, and conversations are going on with the sheriff's department. Might they have a crew that would come in this situation with a pickup truck and do some cleanup, either when the city makes people leave, which happens, and tents are abandoned, so forth, everything's abandoned, or on properties like this when people have been tenting there and there's a need to clean up. So that's one thing that is ongoing. And I did hear after that the Department of Mental Health might have storage if they can pick up tents instead of throwing them in a dumpster, which is what happens. If they could reuse them, that would be a wonderful thing. They might have some storage. So that's kind of all ongoing right now to see. So that's for an abandoned one. But my concern is also for people who are trying to camp outside and are trying to keep up a good campsite. And how are they ever going to do that with no money and no transportation and no support and trying to not be found in some, I mean, there's all kinds of issues. So it has always seemed to me as though some agency with a pickup truck could go around weekly and drop off trash bags, and then go around weekly or figure a way for the city to pick up trash. That would be a very helpful thing to try to keep these sites cleaned up. If you had a weekly check-in, you could let Larry know, you could let us know, this person needs this in order to keep it up. You know, we buy plastic storage bins. Yeah, I mean, what do they need to try to keep a place manageable? So I think that's really an ongoing need for people. An agency to do that would be a terrific thing. Another thing I think the city could do is when people are trying to clean up, if you could forego the $3 a bag at the dump charge, if someone is cleaning up a site, you know, that would be a positive thing, or the $50 a mattress pickup. Those are charges if people are trying to keep things cleaned up. I think that would be better. I am really in favor of finding one dry site that people can camp in. I think one site is not a bad idea. You can provide oversight, you can have services. If people in the town wanted to bring coffee and donuts in the morning, there would be one site where we could arrange folks to drop it off. And I hope something like that comes of your group. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to say. And Larry will have much more to build on that with, I think, because he is the expert.
Thank
Well,
you
I just-
so much.
If I could just add, right now, there's a lot of abandoned sites in Greenfield. And folks are afraid, like somebody I know has put a lot of stuff in bags, but it's so far away from the street. It's so far away from the street that they have no way of getting all those bags to
Right.
nowhere.
Right.
So they're just piled up
Yep.
at the edge of where they're camping at.
They have
And
good intentions.
but they have no way of, they can't bring it out on their bicycle or on their back. And even if they did on their bicycle, because some of them have wagons, there's nowhere really to bring it
Right.
that they won't get in trouble.
Right.
I pass with that. Amy, thank you for all the stuff you shared.
Okay. Thank you, Larry.
Does anyone have any questions? And then we'll do some comments and whatnot. And we can also go back to library needs too, if you
Yes.
don't have a hard.
Well, I was just with the bags, I know that part of the problem is where they put them. But does this, the city provides the blue bags for people who want to clean up trash? Do they do this? Is that available also to these people?
That would be great. When you actually come to a cleanup, you're looking for contractor bags.
Okay.
Those really
okay,
big, heavy
okay,
duty ones
all right,
that you
okay.
have to.
But I meant for
straw.
individual trash.
Yeah, that,
To hand out for
Yeah.
people at the sites.
yeah,
Is that,
that could be great.
okay.
And you have a question or just? Pam, if you-
Yeah, I just, thank you, Amy. That was super helpful. I do know, a few of us had a meeting with the mayor recently. It was an emergency meeting and the chief of staff was there. And the concern, is sometimes, people picking up needles.
Mhm.
So, we're gonna have to figure that part out because whether it's the sheriff's department or the DPW, it's, being very careful and wearing, I don't know how thick. I mean, I used to wear the gloves as a CNA, but you need to protect yourself
Right,
because God knows what's in
right.
the bag or, chicken bones can,
Right.
I think that the fact that they're doing the best they can in certain cases only would invite a wild animal, to rip open a bag and then your trash is no longer bagged. So,
Right.
one question that I had, Amy, when you said the Department of Health, Mental Health, I think, DMH, right? They may have storage so that if we find a tent intact and we don't have to, nobody's throwing it in a dumpster. Do you have a name for that? Do you have anybody
It was
that?
Dan,
His name is Dan?
he's on our board. I'm quite sure that's where he is, but I'll get it for you.
Okay, yeah, I thought that was super helpful because sometimes it's not trash. It just needs to have a place until somebody needs it. I really am big into repurposing.
Yep.
So those are the two concerns, and I think finding out how to waive the payment for mattresses and bags is critical too. Those are all great ideas.
Thank you. Also seeing we have some new members of the public, Nate and Jessa, thanks for being here, and Councilor Perry, you raised your hand, and you work for DMH, so please try to.
Yeah, I had no choice but to say something. And Larry can probably work with us on this. DMH at 13 Prospect Street, we share that the state owns the building. ServiceNet is the provider agency in the first 2 floors. There is some limited storage space in the basement. And we could, depending on the volume, we could probably make room in another room or two. It'd still be fairly limited, but Larry could probably interface with Dan. He knows who I'm talking about to set that up and see what we could do. We do this now for clients who have no place to be. So we do store client stuff in the building, and we could probably extend that out a little bit. It would need to be labeled so we know whose stuff it is, so when they come to get it and that sort of stuff. But we could certainly work on that with my site supervisor, Dan Sontag.
It is Dan Sontag.
Thank you so much. And is it okay to go back into public comment unless someone else has something training? So if Nate, you want to chime in?
Thanks, only just because my name was mentioned. I'm here, I'm fairly new to Greenfield. I'm in precinct 4, just generally concerned with the unhoused and how they're fitting into the community. So here to learn about what's going on with that and find out how I can be of better help.
Thanks for being here.
I have a question for Amy. If someone wants to volunteer with the Interfaith Council or wants to donate money or supplies, how could they get in contact with?
They could, they can, I'll give you my number. You call me at home.
Okay,
I'm a volunteer with them, so you call me at home.
yeah, okay, cool, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I guess I was asking for the general public, but that makes
That
sense.
is what happens with the general. public.
Understood, understood.
So I'll give it to you.
Is there, follow up to that, is there a way that the Interfaith Council is collecting donation, like monetary
Always.
donations that is a little bit more easily accessible, maybe
We have a
website
website.
link?
We do have a
Okay.
website with it, and you can donate on the website specifically for housing. The Interfaith Council does many other things, but I'm only involved with housing, and you can donate specifically for housing there.
Great.
We do get grant assistance from the opioid task force because they needed a group to do the purchasing with the funds that they get. So we agreed to be that group. So that's, and that Larry and I have worked together. We also raise money just from friends of the Interfaith Council. And a couple of years ago, we put a letter out just saying that what the need was in the community for the unhoused. And I think we raised $30,000 just from people sending checks. So it can be done when there's a real need. There's a lot of support in the community, I think, for this. So people will be wanting to hear the results of your efforts and how they can help.
Do you know the Interfaith Council's website off the top of your head?
Interfaith Council of FranklinCounty.org, probably.
Okay,
Mhm,
great,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you. My question is the Interfaith Council, are those tax deductible?
Yes.
Donations? Wonderful. And also, are the donations restricted to the things you mentioned, or?
They are restricted to anything that helps people stay housed or live unhoused or maintain tenancies. And so we have expanded that hugely over the years to include help with utilities. Yeah, I mean, we help with a bunch of things. The advantage of the Interfaith Council is that most of our funds are just privately given, so there are no restrictions. And we can respond quickly so that if Larry calls me, today that he needs a tent tomorrow, often we can get him a tent tomorrow. So we can respond quickly, and even on rental things, I can drive and deliver a check if someone is endangered to that point. So we can be quick.
Amazing. Thank you. Also, another question is just like, for thinking about a sanctioned encampment, there would be startup costs for utilities, and would it make sense to ever do a fundraising campaign
That's a
through the
possibility.
Interfaith
Yeah,
Council?
or to partner with the city on something like that is certainly a possibility. Yeah. Yes. And what, if someone's taking notes, let me give you my email, not my home phone, for contact information. Is a lot of people have the home phone, but it's D Clarke, CLARKE 33 at Comcast.net. So if anyone has concerns or questions, feel free to let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you. for
I do
letting me-
have one question. Could you clarify, because I just know they're renovating or improving Days Inn, and I'm assuming that they will put up their sign again. So I know I was working with you on hotel vouchers, and other people do too. Do you have any idea whether that's going to be available? Because, for instance, I don't know, I'm assuming we're not welcome at the Hampton. Is that what's behind 99?
That's pretty much
Pretty-
true,
pretty-
and we can't afford it.
Right, exactly.
There's no deal there.
So I'm just wondering, because once winter hits,
Right.
there is a need to see if we
I
can.
hope
put
so, and I
people
don't
in.
know anything about it. We have, since the Days Inn was unavailable, we have put people at the Red Roof. And then we are all of Franklin County, so over in Orange and Athol, we use the Travel Inn over
Okay,
there. A small place, but they have allowed people to be there too. So those are the two places this past winter we were able to.
and how do they get there? To Deerfield and
Well,
Bethel?
Yeah, that's the question.
Transportation.
They have to have transportation. Yep. And we work with the Salvation Army in Athol and Orange. Steve Raymond over there is the contact, and he's with the Athol Orange Baptist Church. And he is the contact to get people in to travel in. And then I believe his church still puts together little bags. So he tries to meet people there, give them a bag of things they might need to, get through a few days, personal health items and so forth. So we work through him in that part of the county, and then people, Larry or whoever, will call me for this part. Transportation is an issue. If agencies call, sometimes someone in their agency can drive them. Larry always tried to check on people when they were at the Days Inn, and it's so much harder because you can't get to the Red Roof. It's not ideal at all.
Yeah,
And do you happen to have a contact for the Days Inn?
I don't now. I used to, yeah.
You used to?
I don't now.
would you be willing to share your old contact and see if maybe they know somebody?
The old contact was a front desk person.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right, no,
All right.
yeah, so not the owner.
So that might be a
Yeah.
follow-up by
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
I hope you get good news on that. Yeah.
Do you also know the update? I feel like I'm sorry, I don't know this, but the Maura Healy on shelters and. Okay, I need to just read these emails and I haven't.
Yeah.
But I know it's not good.
No, it's not good.
It's not good.
You have a deadline, you have to leave and you don't have a place to go.
Right.
She's standing firm on that.
And it is, Larry will say Larry wants to say, it's not getting easier out there.
So in this winter, because we had the warmest shelter here in Greenfield, there's not many folks around here that we put up. I don't know how many people Amy may have put up, but most of the folks that I support, they all went to the warmest shelter or they just stayed outside over the winter. In the past, we used the Days Inn, and you know, I used to go down there with another person from Elliott Services. Whenever we put people in the motel, when we will go down there and check on them on the weekends, you know, and make sure they have like food cards, you know, their basic necessities. Because again, folks are outside, so they get a motel room. You know, sometimes they may not know how to act or whatever. Just checking in with them throughout the time they're there, it was a key thing we did in the past. I think I'm gonna pass with that.
Thank you. Also welcome Darcy. Thanks for joining. If you'd like to come give public comment at any point, you can raise your hand and come up mute. And yeah, anything else for Amy? Questions and comments?
Actually, if I can, I just, I had one question. I know, like, so at the library, we have the stick boxes in, the needle boxes in all of our restrooms. And we get those through Tapestry. Are there individual size like boxes that people could put out? I'm showing my ignorance, I know, but that can be handed out if people are interested, that might help with the needle.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Okay.
They're called Sharps boxes.
Yeah.
And they generally are about the size of like a large mason jar. And they typically are something that people buy. I don't see any reason why they might not be able to be made available through Tapestry. The problem then is collection. Because they are technically biohazard waste.
Okay.
And so that's why needle boxes typically have a fixed location so that they can come and be emptied. When you give them out to somebody, that person then has to bring them back somewhere. Otherwise, you have a box of biohazard waste that is just sort of sitting around. I think that if we were in a situation where there were consistent mobile services going to people rather than making them come to services, that would be a really nice solution. We're not there yet, but if we were to reach the point of a sanctioned encampment, that would be actually a really nice solution.
Okay.
Because then service workers could go and make a collection round.
And the opioid task force, I think, is working on mobile services too, so that could actually happen.
Yeah. And then the other thing is we have received quite personal care items and I think 25 backpacks that we will be putting together in the next month so that we will be making those available to people who need them. They won't need a library card. They just need to come in and ask for it. And also, I just want to let people know, we also received a supply of electronic chargers. So if you know someone who needs a charger for their phone, they should come find me. I have a box.
Are those
The portable ones?
Those, I have portable chargers. No, you have to plug them in. I'll be honest.
Not power banks.
Not power banks, that we couldn't get. But what they can do is they can take them and they can charge it at the library, they can charge it at other places. And we are working We do have some outside outlets at the library, and we're having a conversation about how we can keep them open without it becoming a problem, so that people can stop by on the weekend when we're closed. So we're working on a solution to that, because unfortunately we've had some issues. But we know that like this weekend, we're closed for 4 days, so if we can keep, even if it's just one outside outlet out near the front, then people can charge their equipment. So we're working on that.
Just of note, there are outlets available in Energy Park. They are not under shelter. So in inclement weather or things like that, it's not a great, but if somebody needs access to electricity, there are outlets in there.
Yeah, I also know that we used to have what was it, like a solar charger over where the benches were removed. And then
Okay.
Carol Collins from the Energy Sustainability Department, she said that that there was going to be another solar charger installed in the spring or something, but would be probably good to check in and stuff.
There are outlets on the center of the common, I believe, that Crash plugs in somewhere over there. I'm not sure if they're not on regularly. No, but I think they're right there on the walkway of the common.
That's
They're
something.
on. They're on.
They're
They're
on.
plugging right there. Yeah, right there in the common.
Okay.
Well, this is so helpful. The main points I have are abandoned sites, cleanups, weekly check-ins, coalition building with multiple volunteers and agencies and groups and people, trash. Oh, sorry, actually, one thing I want to mention on that in editorial is that Pedal People in Northampton, they have a partnership with a campsite where they do weekly hauling of their waste, and they're just volunteered to do that. So it's cool. It could be done. Be done here. And then storage issues, and I forgot the name, Dan, what was it? Dan
Sontag.
Sante. Was there any specific follow-up that someone wanted to like assign their name to, or?
I think it will probably come up in the opioid task force conversations as those go forward. He's part of that group. So I think that will happen if the whole project happens.
Thank you. Cool. And then just fundraising, willingness to partner with if there was a sanctioned encampment with fundraising and or startup costs. And then sharp boxes and electronic chargers. Anything else on these topics, or more specifically library needs around?
I would love if you could just sort of talk about like what you see as needs and what shows up in the library environment. Because that's something that I think we could think of.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, we're open to everyone. And we do see, there are people who come for the day, and that's great. So we obviously have our restrooms, we have charging stations, we have our public computers are available. We don't need a library card to use our public computers. We also, like I said, we have the charging units that we also, like people will come in. We also have a stash of in-house charging cords so that people they come in with their phone and they don't have a charger, we can help them out. So we are trying to figure out a way, because we are a warming and cooling center when we are open. And during the summer, like last summer, when we have those heat waves, especially on the weekends, there aren't a lot of places for people downtown to go. So we are working to see if there's a way that we can, during the middle of a heat wave, it wouldn't be every weekend, but it would be during a heat wave, that we could find a way of having our lobby open for a few hours on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, just to give people, a chance to come in. There's a lot of issues around it, and we're working on it. I'm talking with the Medical Reserve Corps Did I say that right? Because there isn't really a pool, we need volunteers. We can close off the front, of the library. We have a gate so that it would just be the meeting rooms, the bathrooms and the lounge that would be available. But we have to have staffing and volunteers. So we're working on that. Hopefully, next month I'll have some more answers. So that is something we're doing. Like I said, the backpacks and then our information sessions, that's also been helpful. We have a lot of people, they need the social services. So we have various organizations that come in every month to just sit, and they're just there so people can talk, like LifePath is one of our big sponsors. We have others that come in, some more occasional. Nell Quick comes in so that they do tabling. And, we're a resource center. So if you have information for us, we're happy to present it. Am I answering the questions that you want me to answer?
Yeah.
Oh, good. And we're open to suggestions. We do have limits, but we're open to suggestions because we know that, that's part of our role as a community organization, as a public library, is for everybody to be able to come in. And, not, like, as I say, 99.99% of the people who walk through that door are just, it's part of our community, very few issues. They happen occasionally, but, and, we have people who come in for they'll spend the day there. And I know in the past, we were very strict about not sleeping, about not allowing people to sleep. And that's really, we understand that that's changed, because we understand that, if you're spending the night just trying to be safe, you've got to catch some sleep during the day. So we don't let you bring in your mattress but we have plenty of comfy seating. We have places that are quiet, especially on the second floor, that people can, catch a nap, catch up, some of their, and they can bring, their food. They can't eat in certain parts of the library, but they can, bring in food, especially if, on Saturday, if they're at Stone Soup and it's like this, a lot of them will come, a lot of people who use Stone Soup will come over to eat in the periodical lounge.
I have a question.
Of course.
The library was shut down and I attended a CSO workshop. So it had librarians and people from the
Yeah.
Warming Center and,
That's right.
So
Yeah.
were you at that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that was dealing with some behavioral issues and other things. It was, I think, 4 CSO officials
Mhm.
over a period of a whole day, pretty much 10 to 3 or something.
Yeah.
So that, I just wanted to say there are occasionally, because we certainly see that at the Warming Center, where, some training was gonna to be helpful to people.
Yeah, so we do we did offer that training, and it was really helpful because, as librarians, it's not just about books anymore, and some of our job is social services and kind of this, unofficial social work. So we have been learning how to meet with all members of our community, how to deal with behavior issues. And I think after our growing pains of moving into the new library, we've really established a good rapport. We have a great crew, and we have a really good relationship with members of the community. So, we rarely have issues. And we've learned,
That's what I was gonna ask is I wanna know, like, what kind of training the library got on how to connect with a population where you are not just doing books, right?
yeah.
And also, like, do you feel like there's a need for ongoing training, or
Yes.
what would that, like, what would you want that to look like? What do you see as like
Yeah.
primary areas of need?
So most of us have, I think, I would say just about everyone on staff has gone through the Librarians for Homelessness, or the Homeless for Librarians program, which is put together by Ryan Dowd, who he runs one of the biggest homeless shelters in Ohio. And I think it's Cleveland, but I'm not sure. There's a great book that I would be happy to if anyone would like to borrow. And it's a wonderful program on communication, on de-escalation, how to handle issues ranging from body odor to where to find social services. And basically all coming from, everyone deserves to be treated with the same level of respect. And it's an ongoing educational process, every day you learn something new. And we try as much as possible to do in-house trainings. Unfortunately, because we are a public library, it is very difficult for us to take the time to take these classes as a group. But yes, it's also part of the Massachusetts Library Association and the American Library Association. I have probably 2 or 3 webinars in the next 6 weeks that deal with different aspects of these issues. So we take it seriously, and it just makes our jobs better and easier. So, yeah. Thank you. And I'm happy to share any of this information if you're interested in learning some of the techniques or some of the courses we've gone through. I'm happy to share the information. So, yeah.
I work with Christy Lemoyne, who's, last time I checked, on the medical reserve corps, both Franklin and Berkshire County. Do you have another contact name that you use?
I do, but it's on my laptop. So,
Look for it.
yes.
External brain.
Yes.
Yeah, my question was like, I know when the director was came to Ways and Means meeting before, she was mentioning some issues around people not being allowed to bring their pets in, that have been.
Yeah, that's hard. We allow service animals, but we have to be careful because we are a public space and because everyone is there for the community, it's really a question of safety. We have a lot of children running around and, a small child may see a dog and be like, I'm going to go pet that dog. And it's not, if the animal has not been properly trained, then so we're very careful about what we allow in, is that kind of?
I guess the question was just like, what are there specific triggers that might lead to?
Well, they have to be on a leash at all times. Like we
Yeah.
had someone who at one point brought a dog in a bag and it was like, that's not really okay. Cause then put the bag down and,
That's the subway
so.
policy in New York City. You put dogs in a bag and then you see like ridiculous
Yeah,
like people wearing a backpack.
Or like they cut the dog leg holes in the bag.
Yeah, I've actually working in a restaurant. We had a patron in a restaurant who they would bring their cat. And then, like let the cat out. No, that's really
That out bag.
So it really depends upon the situation. It's not something, I wish it could be like, it's only this works, and we have some dog people who, they'll come in and it's just, they don't want to leave their dog in the car. And so they're just like, oh yeah, my dog's a service dog. And so.
Do you guys know, like, did you get training on what questions you can ask to
Oh, yeah.
determine? Okay.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That one is a very common
Yes.
gap.
Yes. No.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have some questions, comments? We're so lucky to have our wonderful guests here this morning. It's like very cool and what you do. Libraries are so cool.
Wait, so
You want to comment again?
Yeah, I wanted to know, so I just did a very basic Google search to see if this was a thing, and I couldn't find anything. So I'm wondering if there's a sponsorship program with any organization with, trained individuals who could mentor with folks who are wanting to get out of houselessness. That feels like there've been some points where I've been on the verge of being houseless, and it was a very lonely time. And so and what has kept me from being unhoused were some friends who helped me bridge the gap. So I'm wondering if that's a thing that has been discussed at all, is how something like that could work, if that's of interest. I think that could be a really powerful thing, potentially.
I want to speak to that because it ties into the survey that's on our agenda today, is it not? So, we have a survey that we're planning to get to people that are unhoused. And one of the questions that I did it this morning because you have to take it, like that. I'll just click on it and look. I said, oh no, I'm going to pretend. So I filled the whole thing out, and one of the things was, what else can the city do for you, or how else can we be helpful? And it ties into what you're talking about, Nate. Socializing, a place where you truly socialize, being accepted. Mentoring would be part of that it might start slow, where you just feel welcome, sit down, socialize in a spot that's safe for everybody, where everybody is welcome. I think it's the Green River House has that kind of a situation, but you have to sort of qualify and be there. So I wrote on there, it'd be great to just spend time with people, all kinds of people, getting to know children in the neighborhood. There isn't a spot where they can go. And Larry can talk about what they are able to do over at Wildfire Allowance. But I just think we've got to turn around an attitude in some cases in the city, and hanging out. Where can they hang out? Other than they hang out with each other at the warming center, only at 7 p.m. And that's different. You're trying to rest, plug your phone in and sleep and take a shower. So I think that's a great idea. I mean, mentoring, there's nothing more powerful.
I think to sort of directly answer your question about crisis counseling or just places where people in crisis can talk to people in Greenfield, I think the two biggest that people usually point to around here are the Wildflower Alliance, which has open hours, and the Recovery Center, which I believe they have open hours, but they have all sorts of group events too. And they are always looking for more people who are trying to get involved in peer support and crisis support and things like that. So those are the two institutions in our area that I would point you to.
Yeah, I want to add to that as well, because I think it's a really good question. And what I hear you saying, Nate, is really a question about support that doesn't come out of like a case management model. And that I think is, I think that there are people doing that work. Larry is a good example, where Larry is not showing up for people as a social worker or as a housing coordinator. Larry is showing up as somebody who gets it, who can be there as a friend, and who also can say like, hey, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? These are things that might help. And I think that we do have a few people doing that, but I think that that's a gap. And I think that that gap is primarily from this idea that housing is a problem that can be solved by just throwing a bunch of resources at somebody. And I think that what you bring up about like loneliness is a really good example of why that's not true. It's not just, okay, we'll just like, give you a caseworker and that solves the problem. Like you actually have to support people in being part of a community and being connected to other human beings in a social way rather than a services way. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Go ahead, Nate.
Thanks. I really appreciate hearing all of this. And Larry, I'll reach out to you if that's all right, or to the Wildflower Alliance, just to get more information, find out what you're doing. Yeah, so I guess to me, the big part would be normalizing the I don't know what word to use, just normalizing being unhoused, that it exists, and that a lot of these people are just, they're your neighbors who just happen to not have a house right now. And the more that socializing can happen out in public view with people who others from the community recognize as being not unhoused, could go a long way, I think. And I don't know if it's the kind of thing like the Chamber of Commerce could have a regular engagement, or like folks from that group paired up with from unhoused individuals who are, volunteering to be a part of something like this, but members of the community who have who come from a place of some power, being business owners, and being just with businesses in general have to generate revenue. They're dealing with money, which is a big part of this. At least for me, in my experience, it was not having the funds to be housed that was a big player in this. So engaging in that sort of way, I don't know. I guess at this point, I'm spitballing, and I'm going to put a pin in it because I don't want to ramble too much. But
Thank you. Yeah, we can definitely add this on our agenda for next time too.
Thanks for the recs.
Just like community building.
I like community building.
Community building.
Good.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Darcy, I saw that you turned your camera on. Did you want to add a public comment?
I
And
do.
Can you just say your name and
My
where you
name is
live?
Darcy Rosner. I live in Greenfield. I have a husband who is a veteran. I don't really want to get into my story personally right now, but I do want to make sort of the suggestion that there's a large community of veterans who are homeless, and that there is outreach that happens, but we don't have a specific solution for veterans who live in Greenfield. I'm very involved with a organization called Soldier On. I think they have several housing situations in Pittsfield. One of their housing situations is actually on the campus of the VA in Leeds. I know there's one sort of more south on 91, somewhere with Long Meadow, I don't know where, and that they've been spreading out east, more towards Boston. I was recently in a car with a driver who was driving me and my husband back from a Boston hospital, who actually does outreach. And I have his card, and I want to talk to him first before suggesting to him that he too join this meeting maybe. He actually goes out in the field to find veterans to bring them back to Soldier On. And I'm also very close to the director. And I feel like if we could figure out a way to involve Soldier On and make a building actually in Greenfield for veterans, it might actually solve a lot. And they're obviously already set up. Their VA location, they're not part of the VA, and that's the important part of the Leeds location. They rent a building on the campus. But out in Pittsfield, they took over an old nursing home. I just really think, I've talked to Reese about this. I met with him. I sort of met him by chance, and it seemed almost like magic that I had someone to talk to about my passion here with the veterans. And they range from people who were in Afghanistan and Iraq, but also in my husband's group, which would be Vietnam War veterans who are getting older and really struggle with the homelessness and their needs that are maybe different than the rest of the population, you know, mental health needs and things like that. I don't know if this is a helpful suggestion. I want to do something about it, and it's my passion. And so I would like to thank Reese for bringing me here today, so I could say it. And thank you for also making me feel brave, because I'm a little nervous.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you
being
so
here.
much, Darcy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Darcy. I think that's wonderful. I think we should certainly have a representative from Soldier on. I know, you know, I know there's a separate organization, also the VA as well. And I actually attended a training recently with one of their representatives. And I just want to, they should speak for themselves, but I want to echo something that really struck me, which is a lot of the barriers of care that they see are people who qualify, who are veterans who served in the military, but believe that they don't qualify because, you know, they were never in combat. They didn't get a Purple Heart. There's all these other things. And so the terminology that they used in my training was, have you ever served in the US military? And then from there, having the conversation about what services are available and the way that they can help. So thank you for bringing this up, Darcy. I think it's great.
Yep. My pleasure. I hope I can become more involved as time goes on.
Well, I don't want to keep you here if you.
I'm
want to
okay.
go, but you're good.
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. I blocked this time out, so
Thank you
I'm
so
good.
much.
You're welcome.
And yeah, I appreciate everyone being here. Our official agenda, which we can take out of topic, and sorry, it already has been pretty random, but hey, we're in brainstorm mode. So the next topics on the agenda officially are the distribution of the survey that you worked on. I could pull it up even in screen share if we want, and then also sanctioned encampments and thinking about, and we can move topics out of order. And then Greenfield legislation, that's our other topic, and other examples of legislation, other municipalities around camping.
I was just gonna say, I really want to hear more about your meeting with the mayor.
It was juicy, so yeah. Yeah,
I think we should report that. Yeah.
great. So would we like to do survey at the end or just a brief?
Can we do the survey quickly? Because I
Wrap
think
it up.
that this is going to be a quick one.
Thanks, Reese.
Yeah. So I had sent out the survey to folks. And yes, the one unfortunate thing about using this platform is it's hard to see the survey without taking the survey. So if you took it and submitted, thank you. If you took it and didn't submit, that's great too. It didn't change very much from the feedback that I got from folks. I did make a couple of updates, and basically it is what I sort of talked through and showed at our last meeting. And Sarah's gonna run it up. Sarah's gonna,
Oh, wait, I don't want to join audio.
share Sarah's gonna share the thing on Zoom so that folks who maybe weren't here last time or are on Zoom and can't be in the room with us, you can at least see what we're talking about.
Hold on a second, I have too many tabs, it's crazy in here.
And while we're waiting, we did discuss that we would try to use the library, right, Sarah? As a location.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, do we want to think about, okay, great, I'm co-host. So here we go.
There we go.
Survey. It's here.
Okay, so yeah, just talk about it a little bit. This is the intro page. It tells what our committee is, what we're trying to do, and then why we're sort of asking for people to fill out this survey. It says at the end of the survey, you can share your name and contact information if you want us to get in touch with you. If you don't want to share your name and contact information, your answers will be anonymous. So that's not a required question. People can just skip it. It asks for age, it asks for current housing situation and how long someone has been unhoused, and then how did you become unhoused, and if they want to share anything specific, like on and off sleeping on people's couches, it's not easy to capture that in the answers. And so there's a chance for them to sort of tell us more. And you'll notice most of these are open answer questions because I want to give people sort of as much flexibility in how they answer as we can while still getting the kind of information that we want. So what services have you accessed that have been helpful? How did they help you? And what services can you not get to? And why can't you get to them? And then just a Likert scale of how well do you think Greenfield is supporting unhoused residents? 1 is bad, 7 is good. And what do you think we should do to better support our unhoused residents? And is there anything else you want us to know? And then the last page is, if you want us to get in touch with you, give us your contact information that they can skip this and submit the form. So that's what the survey looks like. It's short. The point of it is to get information about maybe get some information about like the population, right? That's why there's demographics, but more to get personal accounts of what is easy and hard to access in Greenfield and what they feel like they're missing. Because that's really like the point of the survey, is to get an idea of like what kinds of services could we be providing that are either not provided or not accessible right now, and how would people tell us they want us to do that? I also added the question about how well do you think Greenfield is doing, because I think it's important for people to be able to say, I feel like this is going well, or I feel like this is not going well. That's information that right now I don't see a way for people to get that information to us other than like showing up at the mayor's office. And most people, that feels like an inaccessible thing. So my vision for the survey would be that we distribute it electronically. Like we can give a link to Larry, we can post it with a QR code at Wildflower Alliance or other places around town that people might be accessing services so that they can do it on their phone. We can also do this by showing up at the library with these questions on a piece of paper or with a QR code as an option, and just hang out there at a day when it's raining and stone soup happens and just sort of talk to people as they come in the door. We could also find a couple of other places to do that kind of person-to-person contact, like Tapestry or down by the Energy Park. And I figure this is something that we could keep open for even the duration of our work as a committee, if we wanted, or we could choose to close the survey after a certain point. But because we're not trying to do something specific with this data in like a time-bound way, this is more like gathering information that can be rolling in as we work. I don't see a need to have a set date for the survey to close right now, but we can revisit that later. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking about the survey. Anybody, please, comments, thoughts?
So as far as the library, definitely tabling. We can do that. Also, you know, I was thinking we could put if you make a flyer with the QR code, we could put those in every single one of our restrooms, which of course is, you know, everybody goes there.
Yeah.
And then I would assume that you would have that flyer and then just distribute it through FCRN or other social service organizations.
Franklin County Resource Network.
Yes, sorry. I live in the world of acronyms sometimes. And when you are tabling, if you have a tabling session, we could also provide a laptop if people wanted to and it could be a dedicated laptop for a certain amount of time. So we could do that also.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I guess I just want the public to know, in case they didn't watch was it just a week ago, we had a meeting, but there were a lot of complaints by the unhoused about a particular agency. And I think, you know, that's what this was born out of, was like, oh God, I don't want to use them, or I can't. And I don't want to lay blame anywhere, but if they are still trying to get, after maybe many months, trying to find a social worker or are not on SNAP, and they would love to be able to have help with those applications. That's kind of where this survey idea, I think, was started and was what many of us had heard from them. They were just not too happy. And plugging them in is critical. Thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely was a driving force for this. Also, just generally, like Christy's not able to join us today, but we are a group primarily of people who are housed and have stable housing, and we need to be really attentive to whose voice is not present in this conversation. And this is really for me a way to like get some of those voices into our work in a way that is sustainable and that we can return to them again and again and potentially continue conversations with people after they fill out the survey.
I would also suggest, as a suggestion, if you do want to set up tabling, is that if we can partner you with perhaps Wildflower Allowance or another organization that might be able to answer some of those benefit and resource questions also. So it doesn't have to be just this group. It can be another group or two that we can do at the same time. So that kind of, one-stop shopping.
And maybe we could
Work on a
buddy up with people who are coming in from Tapestry and doing that consistent tabling.
Yep,
So that we can be like sitting there too. And
Yeah.
it's like, hey, would you like to?
we could do that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is
Cool.
cool.
Wonderful ideas. I'm wondering if we can just motion to approve the survey as is, and I like all these distribution ideas and partnerships and tabling, and I'm thinking like, maybe if you tell Tammy and I'll be here at this time, and then some other folks of us, like it would be nice if it was like paired up, but, so then other folks could find time to buddy up with me.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if you can't be there, then other people can do it.
So I would move that we take a survey and start using it.
Second. And then I think, oh, Larry, did you have anything to add? I see. Okay, you're in favor voting. Great, all in favor. I think we're technically supposed to do a roll call, but this is.
It appears unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Now, the moment that we've been waiting for. The mayor go. Larry, would you like to start? Because you're quite diplomatic.
I can share this from what I got from what she was talking about, the mayor. This is not going to be an easy move. What we want to do, it's not going to be as simple as we find another space and okay, we just move from the dog park and from behind Greenfield Markets to the new space. You know, they kept talking about the liability thing. And then I asked what was the liability down at the dog park? Whose liability is it there? And never really got I got type of an answer from the chief of staff, but it's gonna be a long process, I think. I guess I can pass. I'm sure Pamela has a few things she would like to add.
Yes, I thought it was a good meeting. We had, just so people know, we had a whole lot of town property that we were hoping that was on higher ground. We just heard Amy talk about an appropriate campsite. And we knew it was going to be a liability issue. And that's, like the problem with some of the properties too is that they're not appropriate because they have to be close to the FRTA. They have to be able, people have to, unhoused need to show up at the various churches that are feeding them. So it was not like, okay, let's do this for sure. I think that it gave people time to be thinking about things. I don't know what the next prospect is, except we were told, I suggested that we need to go after private people who have their own property, people who are willing to look into the liability. And a name was given. I'm not going to say that out, but I am going to pursue people, realtors and empty buildings. And if they would be willing, it's going to be a liability issue. I don't care where we go. I mean, like Larry said, it's right now we have to be able to get an ambulance into these places to get in there. And I think, Officer Zoe can also talk about, you know, and when we get to like the encampments, technically, they're just not allowed, you know, and that's part of this meeting today, if we get to that on the agenda. So it's not that the mayor said, I don't care about the unhoused. She was clear as a bell on that. And I do think it is a process. It's not going to be a fast process. And if we can find someone that's not town liability, a lot of money is spent with our attorney dealing with all kinds of liability issues. And so I'm not all that discouraged. I did not think in 1 hour's time we were going to leave there with bells, whistles, and everything we needed. I think we just need to keep thinking and pursuing. And I knew we weren't going to leave there with like, hey, this is the best place. But it was, you know, it was hard to leave and be thinking like, okay, well, what's plan B? What's plan C? And I think we need to pursue and keep thinking of other ideas and not give up. That's my opinion. I'm not giving up on this. This is ridiculous. If Austin, Texas and Portland, Oregon, and if Pittsfield can have a place for their veterans, then why can't we? So this probably, except for Sarah giving her 2 cents about that meeting, you know, we're going to look at the legislation. We want to decriminalize being unhoused. How? How are we doing that? How's that going to work? We need zoning changes, ordinance, bylaws. I don't know what it takes, but we have a sense of a community that really wants to move forward on this. That's safe and humane. I pass.
Well said. +1. Yeah, on the more optimistic parts of the meeting, they already have porta potties that are open for the season. I think that there had previously
Been locked
there
up.
wasn't access or they've been locked up, but now that's, there's one down at the Green River Park, so that's great. And there was openness to having assistance with trash pickup from DPW, but of course being mindful of people's capacity, and also maybe it's better through the sheriff's department, but just openness with like, I think with waiving fees or figuring out some of that. And then we did-
Lockers,
yes,
the
and
lockers
storage
were
lockers.
real positive.
Yes, that there was a grant in the works with the Community Economic Development Opioid Task Force. Larry, I think you probably know.
The lockers were
I
going
think
to be
you're
in the
good.
garage.
Yeah,
Maria knew a little bit about it because I talked to Maria. So there's a plan to have lockers that are able to be locked up for people to use in the parking garage. It does take some funding, but I think the mayor thought she knew where the money would be coming from. We don't have a time frame. And that's a huge thing for them to be able to get. The mayor was concerned about how they have to carry all of their belongings on their back, just not even possible.
and we also mentioned some specific sites, but Green River School, there's a path back there besides just the school area, next to the Green River Cemetery. And there's going to be an RFP for the schools, and there's new children, not really the vibe. Then there's this Loomis Road, Turner's Falls location. I can actually even screen share this, but it also doesn't matter because, but it also doesn't matter because we can't do it. But
Can I share something? I feel really strongly that we should not take the mayor's recalcitrance as a reason to stop considering public land as an option for our recommendations. I think that to allow her to move so
she
far
might watch
away.
this also.
Okay, but she has previously offered a lot of support.
Yeah.
For projects that are extremely similar to what we are talking about.
Mhm.
So it feels very silly to me to say, well, there's been such a change in her personal opinion after becoming mayor that we should abandon this as an option. I don't think that, especially because we are making recommendations, we can make a recommendation that unfortunately she may not love. But if it is best for the city and best for the community that we are trying to serve, it would be a really big mistake, I think, to abandon a potential recommendation that is the best choice because it is not her first choice.
This goes into the next topic about the actual legislation because it is within. Oh, do you want to share? Sure.
I
Yeah.
know when I first started talking, I sound like, I'm not going to abandon it at all.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to abandon anything at all because our neighbors are sleeping down in flood zones, and that's just not okay for me.
And that for me is the piece. It's like, I understand the concern about liability and I understand the appearance of liability as a bigger issue with a new site. But the reality is that right now, the liability of the current site is higher than if we were to move to a new site that is not in a flood zone. Because we are currently accepting liability of a geographic location that puts people in mortal danger on a regular basis. That to me feels ridiculous. When the offer of a potential different site that does not by its default geographic capacity put people in consistent danger, it feels like kind of a no-brainer. So.
My understanding is that, sorry, I'm going to be a Debbie Downer here. My understanding is that that's not the case because technically we're not allowing, like legally speaking, we're not allowing people to stay at the dog park. They just
Exactly.
are, and we happen to not be prosecuting them.
Sorry.
So when people get washed down the Deerfield River, the city will be able to just say, well, they were there illegally anyway, so it's not our fault. And we're kind of in like a cover your ass mode of homelessness policy right now. And I think that's the more fundamental issue.
And I do want to say that Sarah, you have all the records from 2018 that they had tried and tried and tried. You got all of that from Mary McClintock.
Yes.
So this is nothing new. We are just, doing the best that we can. And I'm like Larry, just because we got initially told that, I'm not ready to throw in the towel either. I said it was a process. And it takes some time, and the legislation that you have given us to read is kind of important stuff.
Yeah, I want to share the legislation, but we have 15 minutes left, so I think I'll still be able to do that. But just if you want to chime in quickly so we can.
Yeah, I'll keep it very short. It's just my feeling that, and I don't know how well this stands legally, but if the city makes a choice not to enforce those laws on the riverside or wherever, then that is essentially permitting. And the choice is not, okay, now we're just going to, come down heavy-handed on everything. But that might be, I don't know. That's my point on that. That gets me fired up.
It's a thin legal argument.
Great way to say it. It's extremely thin ice legally.
Yeah, I mean, also counsel, I think for me, the follow-up steps from this are doing more research. Shockingly. So yes, there are municipalities that have sanctioned encampments. What does their legal counsel say? We also, the city council budget, we do have $4,000 for legal counsel. I would like us to DIY research as much as possible so we don't have to use those funds, but we could get to a point where we do get legal counsel. And yeah, liability is an inevitable issue that supersedes human rights sometimes.
We did talk about individual waiver forms.
Right.
That's
a good point too.
We did talk about, you sign off and say, I'm not holding anybody.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I think if we come up with a solid plan, we can figure it out. And also, why not also talk to private landowners? And that seems like also there could be an amazing spot that somebody could. I'm going to screen share this legislation stuff. because it's relevant for us. Okay, so the too long didn't read. This is being on public land between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. is trespassing, except as authorized by, quote, a permit. Subject to arrest without a warrant and $200 for each offense such as littering or destruction of land. Permit is in quotes because who gives the permit? There's nothing about a permitting process. So, and that has never, hasn't been used.
Also, there's no legal definition in our current legislation that defines
this permit process. And of course, this is not enforced in the 2 sites that are flood zones that we recommend, that we have been referencing, as well as a scattered handful of other sites, and Officer Smith is our expert here. Law enforcement.
Is this in our charter? Is that what you're looking,
This
you're pulling
is
this
all
from?
in ordinances.
This is ordinances for the city of Greenfield.
Yes,
That's where you pull
chapter
it from?
346 public land. This document is in the agenda. And it's
Okay.
also in E-code is really a great set. And the next part, camping on conservation land requires permission of the conservation committee or designee, notification of police, permission of the fire department for open fires. Conservation land is, I forget how many sites there are, but I put a map also in this document. That you can see here, if you pull it up, if you go to Conservation Commission.
Specifically defined separately from like just regular town-owned properties,
Exactly.
specifically conservation.
Do you know, Sarah, if either of the sanctioned spots, basically right now that people are allowed to camp, is conservation land?
That's an interesting thing because FERCog put out a map that their top 5, like high priority conservation value, ecologically sensitive along the Green River, it's not conservation land. So that doesn't, those are not the same thing. High conservation value, conservation land, different things. Conservation land, I talked to the conservation agent, Jessica Siegel, I think, who's also from Portland and experienced some of these sanctioned encampments and like driving by them and anyway, it was interesting talking to her. But yeah, it's like someone has a conservation easement protecting it and the city is holding that and somebody donated their land for that.
Okay.
That's what it means. Okay, you cannot live in a mobile home, trailer, or camper. Exceptions are for up to 2 weeks in a calendar year with a permit from the building inspector or within a licensed campground, or for up to a year if your house burns down. Mobile home is we've gotten a memo from FERCog that this term is completely outdated. Anything after 1970, whatever, there was a HUD guideline. Now these are all called manufactured homes. So this is arguably meaningless that you can't live in a mobile home, because if there's a new regulation. So that needs to be updated. FERCog like emailed everyone, all the member towns saying update this. And their recommendation was to completely strike it from the code, and just have manufactured homes be regulated as a normal single family home.
Mhm.
So that's something
That's a game changer.
that's.
Yeah, that would.
And manufactured homes, the price per square foot is like ridiculously cheaper. It's like half.
Yeah.
So that is something that we should not be criminalizing property.
But there is a mobile home park somewhere in the city,
That's grandfathered in, Adams Park
right?
Road, like,
And they have them in Bernardston and they have them a lot of places. you
Right.
know, So that's, if it needs to be looked at, isn't
yeah,
that
so that's
something we could
grandfathered
do?
in, but you can't have a new manufactured home park or a new manufactured home technically
But
supposed.
we could work on that because it is affordable housing,
Yes.
much more affordable housing.
Exactly. So we should
Okay.
work on that. That one seems like an obvious win. Some of these are more complicated, but that one's like, hey, obviously, FERCog saying it.
Nate's giving thumbs up.
Okay, commercial campground on a seasonal basis. So you can't be a permanent resident at a commercial campground. But that requires a minimum of 10 acres in rural residential areas. Zoning map I can refer to on the outskirts more. And a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. common sanitary facilities are required if each plot is not serviced with water and sewer. So this is maybe relevant, but also not necessarily, because we could come up with a zoning that's tailored to year-round residency.
But a commercial campground suggests to me that it is a public campsite that people pay to camp at.
Yes, that is the definition of commercial campground, is that it is where a fee is charged.
So if there was a site that was for camping where a fee is not charged, it would not qualify as a commercial campground.
Could charge $5.
$1 a year paid through grant funding or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Mhm.
But if there was a campground that didn't require a fee, it wouldn't fall under this.
Right, it's not commercial, I guess. So those are technically the things. I also added in another one from other municipalities just for fun. So these are definition in Great Barrington of a movable tiny house. So you're not allowed to live, right now, a tiny house as Greenfield code, that counts as just a trailer or a camper because it's on a trailer foundation. And so this is, it's recognized in the Greenfield, in the state building code as a living structure. So if we also added this in as one of our definitions, like Great Barrington, then you could have that, and it's okay that it's not on like a stick foundation or a cement poured concrete foundation. Like, so right now you just can't be on wheels. So this is Great Barrington, they added movable tiny house or tiny house on wheels. And then they added a movable tiny house connected to electricity, water, sewer, or septic that has its chassis.
Chassis. Yeah.
Wheels.
Yeah.
It's the understructure. And which concealed shall be considered an ADU. So that's another thing that we could do, considering tiny house and ADU. I don't know. And they also have a little bit more of a friendly trailer mobile home for longer, but.
So they're basically saying if you make your movable tiny house a semi-permanent structure, then we will consider it an ADU by the definition. But okay.
Yeah, you have to conceal it because God forbid we.
Yes, I know. Oh my God.
No, you need a skirt.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Modesty. Yeah.
In the mobile home one, it talks about the building inspector.
Yes.
So every time I looked through this and I was saying, oh, well, some of it requires a building inspector, some of it might, you have to go to the zoning board of appeals and you have to, you know, you can stay longer than 60 days if you go and get permission. So that's what I think is interesting, because if Great Barrington can do it, then why can't Greenfield, right?
And they're arguably, sorry, I maybe should not say this. Like, I'm surprised. Yeah.
No, I think that's why it's important to see what other people do in the area, in the state of Massachusetts. Like,
Yeah.
that's a legwork, but that's, you know, figure out what works in those places,
So
right?
there are 6 cities or 6 municipalities in Massachusetts that have made ADUs, made tiny houses regulated as an ADU. And there's 6 states in the country that have done this. And there's a state bill currently in the Mass legislature to just do this everywhere automatically. So we might even, if we don't like hurry up, then that might just supersede us and will happen anyway.
That was, you said something about a state law that, and I'm wondering if that supersedes a city ordinance.
It would if the state bill is passed, but that will be like another year.
Yeah, and it depends what that state law says.
Yeah.
You know, it might be like an opt-in, right, where the city has to adopt it, or it might.
Yeah, it was something that you said already about, I think.
About the FRCOG recommendation about,
The FERCog memo.
No,
Manufacturing.
it's not, it's fine.
So yeah, these are some things that we can consider. And then just on this note, it's 11:27. But another thing is that for Greenfield City Council to change ordinances and zoning, that takes 7 votes. This is all in the council's wheelhouse, not the mayor's. However, the mayor can veto. If the mayor vetoes, council would override with, would have to override with a supermajority, 2/3. And I'm not saying we should do that because obviously we should have a collaborative approach, but just that's how executive, legislative, and judicial branches work. But this is like, yeah. So,
Nate added a really cool article here about private landowners providing housing in the chat. So if you're in the meeting, if you want to look at that, go ahead.
sure.
It might be the video that you shared.
I suspect it is.
Uh,
I just wanted to mention it because I saw it pop up.
I, um,
It's all good.
okay.
We're good.
Yeah, so-
Don't worry about it.
But can you get it somewhere, or I would love to.
Sure. Oh, well, I won't close the meeting until
Okay, great.
we've gotten a
Won't
chance
close
to
it.
copy it now.
Oh, you're screen sharing.
Oh, yeah, I think I stopped it. Okay, great. These are good examples. Thank you.
Great.
So, we're basically out of time, but let's think about some like things we can do. I personally feel excited about a private landowner that I know right near downtown who specifically wants to do housing for veterans and is
Nice.
concerned about homelessness and affordability, and reached out to me previously about being an interest housing cooperatives. And
Great.
I think I can get in touch with him, and I think that would be a really good site. And he's, yeah, already interested.
Great.
Yeah, and I'll move forward with the survey. And send out feelers about times that we can get that rolling. There was something that. Can somebody follow up with the Interfaith Council? Or does anyone want to follow up with me on the days in?
Follow up specifically how?
Go there and talk to someone?
Yeah.
Find a
Contract.
Yeah.
Go stand in front of their front desk until someone has a conversation with them.
Great. Perfect. Yes. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, cool. Our little drive-by team.
Anyone else feel like they have something you feel inclined to either think about for next time, like a topic you'd want to get to, or an in-between time? Also, I'm assuming we're meeting 2 weeks from now, but just we should also bring up in the next part of the.
Does anybody have a contact to follow up on trash payment and or waiving of fees? That feels like a manageably sized question to at least start asking somebody about.
I guess who sets the fees would be my first question.
Well, and there are already some exceptions with like the blue bags, so
Yeah.
is there a way to?
I'll look into that.
Thank you.
Transfer station.
I feel like, yeah, the chief of staff and Lindsay at the DPW is the recycling the office admin person.
That would be great.
Can I read aloud for people if they didn't write it down? D Clark, CLARKE 33 at Comcast.net is how you make donations for the Interfaith Council for all of the various things that Amy had talked about.
Donations or volunteering inquiries,
Anything,
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I'm anxious to get on that website also that she quoted. I have an appointment with Officer Llewellyn. He and I are gonna do walking into the 2 areas or 3, however many he knows. And I will be asking him some questions about the 3 or 4 pages there. I think you interviewed him at one point in 2024. So I've circled a few things. And I want to ask him about it. Is that, did something happen? I have a couple of questions on that. So I'll follow up on that.
So that could be a good report back for next meeting.
I also completely forgot to bring this up, but the Department of Health actually has a survey out right now that unclear on how much it's being distributed and or where. The library alerted me to it. Thank you, Pamela. But it's 1 page. I have it here, and I want to follow up with the Department of Health on what their purposes are, like why they're doing this and how they're distributing, so that we can at least like be aware of each other's efforts.
This is city level
Yes,
When you say that's Board of Health, right?
or
it's
health?
it's the health department, like the Greenfield Health Department.
Right, that's.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, not Board of Health, but the Health Department.
The director, you're speaking with the director? That's what
I'm going to talk to somebody. I
Okay,
don't know who I'm talking to yet, but
okay,
I'm gonna follow up with the Board of Health about the Health Department's.
right. I just, not to be confused with the Department of Mental Health. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, it just says Health
Yes,
Department.
please.
I had a quick question on that.
And feel free,
survey.
if you don't mind coming up, because then you catch the mic.
So it might hear you.
Okay, I just was wondering on the survey how to ensure unique responses, because you'll be distributing lots of different places and people could be receiving it in lots of different places and maybe not know they've already filled it out or it's the same survey or, anyway, so that was just a question.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Right
Right now, we don't have a way to prevent people from filling it out more than once. It is not a Google form and it looks specific on purpose so that if somebody sees it on a screen, it will look different than other things that they might have seen.
Okay, that's, I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
Totally.
No, that's a good question, because we talked about what kind of data we were collecting.
Yeah.
Do you remember what term we used last time?
Quantifiable versus.
Yeah,
There you go.
qualitative versus quantitative.
Qualitative, yeah.
We're more focused on the qualitative data than the
Yeah.
quantitative,
Yeah.
so,
Very good.
but thank you for bringing it up.
Cool. Can we meet in 2 weeks?
I would love that. Can folks do that?
I can meet in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
First off, congrats.
Also, is anyone interested in liability research and zoning?
Yes.
Yeah?
No, sorry,
Oh.
different question.
Because I'm happy to do that, of course, but if anyone wants to like think about stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Okay.
2 weeks.
Are you talking about June 5th?
Yep.
Oh, wait, shit. I'm actually, sorry, I made everyone say that they could do that. But I'm actually doing a housing thing, which is the Mass Housing Partnership Housing Institute.
3 weeks?
So can we do 2 weeks?
Thursday, the 12th?
I can't.
Okay, we can also try another day. Like, could we do Friday, the 6th?
I could do Friday, the 6th.
Is that okay?
I can do after 11.
I can do before 1, so if we did 11 to 1 or like 11 to 12:30.
I know they want to use this room for their lunch at 12, but we can do 11 to 12 on Friday.
Okay.
We have to constrain ourselves to an hour probably.
11 to 12 on Friday, the 6th.
Okay, and if that doesn't work,
That's a short meeting for us, because we
I know.
never really have done the 1 hour, right?
I know, but also maybe we'll be lean.
Talk fast. Speed it up.
1.5 speed.
You can also pay more attention to the agenda.
Yeah, sorry.
No, not that. It's just like we can move through it a little more.
Yeah. And we had exciting guest speakers.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
Third.
discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.